Hey everyone, welcome to the Touch My Health podcast with Matt and Katie, where we dig into mental health, physical health, and holistic wellness. We share personal stories and struggles that we have overcome. These are our own opinions and experiences. Enjoy!
Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Touch My Health podcast. My name is Matt.
I'm Katie.
Today, we're going to be breaking down all four attachment styles. There's four types in a relationship, and we're going to discuss how they come across in a relationship, how they show up, and we're going to really dive deep into what each of them means. So, an attachment style is like a blueprint, right, for your emotions in a relationship. Understanding them helps you basically create a positive environment and help you navigate through that.
I think attachment styles and love languages is a really intriguing and interesting subject. I
Definitely.
think knowing your attachment style and knowing your partner's attachment style is really important, especially if you're coming out of something or a traumatic relationship and you're trying to re-navigate relationships and get back, out there and kind of getting used to yourself again. It's good to know what kind of attachment style you have, so you know also what works and what doesn't work for you. Attachment styles were started, though, it was in the 1950s, I think. It was a British psychologist, John Bowlby.
John Bowlby.
Bowlby, I think.
Okay.
And he basically said that, or, theorized and said that there was a direct correlation between a child's early relationship with their caregiver and how they then formed their views of themselves and relationships. And then later on, it was expanded upon by a developmental psychiatrist. And that's where the four attachment styles came from, with some additional testing on that end. So we have the anxious, preoccupied, which is me, shocker. The secure attachment, which is you.
Yep.
No, no surprise there. And then there is disorganized, and there is, oh, what's the one I'm missing? Avoidant. So
Yeah, the avoidant one.
we'll get into all four of those. We'll start with the two that relate to us. I had found an attachment style quiz, and I've done them before, and I've always gotten the same result. So I feel like even if you didn't use the one that we're going to put in the link, you would get the same answer probably no matter which one you took. But I had sent it to Matt and I was like, "Here, take this quiz because I want to see what your attachment style is for our podcast." And he's like, "What? What is this?" Like you didn't
Yeah.
even know what they were,
No,
right?
I had honestly never heard of what attachment styles were or even what it meant when I took this quiz. And I will link that quiz in the comments below so you guys can take it too and let us know what your answers are, what
Mhm.
attachment style you are. But yeah, when you sent that to me, I was like, I have no idea what this
You're
means.
like, "Babe, what do you have me do?
Yeah.
I don't want
I
to
was like,
take."
is this not another one of those Facebook quizzes? Good grief.
Right. It's gonna tell you what kind of animal you're gonna be when you
Yeah.
come back from the
Yeah.
dead.
What my Christmas elf
Yeah.
name is.
But the patterns in these attachment styles often carry into, adult romantic relationships. They affect your love, trust, and how you connect with your partner.
Yeah, the
So,
emotional
mhm.
connection
And it's
and
I never even thought to ask you like to take this kind of quiz before we even talked about having this episode, I guess, because I already kind of knew some of the things that trigger me and what my attachment style was, and you were so good with um, helping me and navigating them and being supportive that I just never even thought to say, "Hey, what's yours?" But then when you did it and it said secure, I was like, "Well, that makes sense. That's probably out of the four, the healthiest, like the one you would, I guess, strive to be in."
yeah, but
Um,
I took that quiz knowing or gauging it off of yours and my relationship.
mhm,
Not so much past relationship. It's how I felt today. It's how how we
mhm.
are in our relationship.
Well, and see, when I took it, I didn't necessarily think about our relationship. I mean, was certain questions that I answered them with how I felt now.
Right.
But if it was something like, do you normally or would you always or generally, I would still answer it how I feel like I would have normally answered it,
Right.
maybe
Yeah, those are
before
very
this.
definitive words, always, never. I mean,
Hmm.
there's going to be times where those words don't match because
Right.
of whatever situation. So you want to get into what the first one is?
Yes. So the first one we'll talk about is the secure attachment. We'll talk about yours.
Okay.
And some of these traits that I have, I mean, it's I can see why you have that attachment style,
Okay.
but open communication, emotional regulation, healthy boundaries, comfortable with emotional intimacy, can depend on others without being clingy. You don't take things personally in a conflict. So, and a good example would be like if a partner needs their space, if I was like, I need space, I need time, you would give it to me without taking it personally.
Yeah.
But you just communicate clearly and calmly and trust easily and builds trust in return, sets and respects boundaries,
Yeah, that's
all the good things.
well, it always hasn't been that way, but but the boundaries one really that trait and then the ability to communicate really are, I guess, the two that I've worked on the most for me as my personal growth and to better my mental health because not being able to communicate, not being able to accept someone's boundaries or even set my own boundaries for people was a big deal for my past relationships. And with our relationship, I feel like I've been able to grow into secure attachment and we'll talk about where I came from because I
Well,
wasn't always this way for sure.
that's a good point, though, that you make that even though you may be right now one type of attachment style, you can grow out of that. You can
Certainly.
mature out of it. You can learn out of it. You can be become someone that falls into that secure attachment style. You don't have to stay. It's not to label you and say, well, this is how I am. I have this type of attachment style, and so
That's how
that
you'll always
person
be.
has to,
Yeah.
that's how I'll always be, and you have to cater to that. If you don't like that, that's part of the characteristics of who you are in a relationship. We'll talk about ways to
Yep.
change that. But yeah, you don't have to stay
Yeah, personal
in that.
growth is daily and it should be.
So the next one is anxious preoccupied attachment, which is me. That one needs reassurance.
Constantly.
Check. Fear of abandonment, also check. Overanalyzes, craves constant closeness, and overthinks little things like text messages or tone of voice. Struggles to feel secure without outside validation. Becomes emotionally overwhelmed easily, and often attracts avoidant partners, which I personally just don't necessarily agree with that one for myself.
Okay.
So, like, an example would be too, if, I text you and you don't return the text right away or in the amount of time that I deemed you should have,
Right.
you start panic spiraling and thoughts start going crazy and ruminating and going down this downward spiral, creating stories that have not happened, probably will never happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, this is even with therapy and the therapy that I've done for a couple of years, even though I haven't been in, it's been almost a year since I've been because my therapist moved away. I feel like some of these are not as bad as they used to be, but they're still there. Like I'm still working I'm still working on them. But the,
Yeah.
yeah, fear of abandonment and the need of reassurance and the overanalyzing, and getting overwhelmed, emotionally overwhelmed is it's definitely probably the biggest ones that I think I can relate to when it
Yeah.
comes to this kind of style.
Yeah, I can agree to that for sure. I mean, the overanalyzing and overthinking part we've talked about on other podcasts too, but certainly are very
But you do so good.
well, the reassurance and constant validity to you is I
Hmm.
mean, are definite traits, but it's something that I enjoy. You know,
Hmm.
you're like, hey, tell me I'm pretty, tell me I
Yeah.
look good.
Well,
And
and I for a long time, and I thought about this the other day, but I would always, I knew I had a fear of abandonment. I learned that in therapy, and I always tried to go back to where that came from because normally, I think when you look it up or you read about it, it's generally with like a caregiver. Like these are about somebody leaving you or abandoning you as a child. And I didn't, I mean, I had both my parents. They didn't abandon me. Neither one of them did. My dad
right.
was in the military, so he was gone a lot on deployments. And then when I was young, we had lived with my grandmother for a little while he was in boot camp and stuff like that.
Hmm.
But I'm like, I just don't see that as an abandonment. But then it was like the light bulb went off.
Oh,
And when I was 15, I had what I would call a traumatic experience with a boyfriend, the boyfriend that I was with. And he abandoned me in a really hurtful way. Whoops, sorry. But he abandoned me in a really hurtful way.
hmm.
And that stuck with me. And I remember, like, I mean, basically, I lost my virginity to him. He's like 2 months later moved to a different state and then broke up with me over the phone by having his brother tell me. And then,
Oh,
and then,
ouch.
and wouldn't even talk to
Yeah.
me. Yeah. And it crushed me.
Right.
And I remember crying for a while. And then one day I was just like, you know what? I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not letting anyone make me cry. I am not, you
Yeah,
know,
that's your defense
I got,
mechanism.
yeah. And I think that's where it came from, though,
Yeah. That
because it was very traumatic for me
damn
for a
those
while.
15-year-old boys.
Yeah. Well,
But that
sorry, I
makes
just gave the age of losing my virginity.
that makes sense though, because again, it's where you are developing, it's where your relationships, you're first having these relationships with
Hmm.
intimacy and really I want to say long term, but you're having building a relationship with someone that is past the friendship level. So for the first person to abandon you, it does make sense why that would kind of stick with you.
Yeah,
It's not to
that's
say that you shouldn't have grown out of that.
no. Well, I don't think I didn't. I don't think I processed it. I
Right.
literally just cried for a while and then I got to, and I say a while, it may have been like a month. I don't even remember, but I just
Hmm.
remember telling myself like, you can't keep like, you can't
Right.
stay sad.
Yeah.
We have to get up, get moving. And I feel like looking back at that now, that was still a pretty mature thing for a 15, 16-year old, to say to themselves, because not all 15, 16-year-olds may say that, but I was
Right.
like, and that's where I also developed, I think, I hate when people make me cry. I really, it puts a bad taste in my mouth for that person. And I've learned obviously now to like it, but oh, I was like,
Yeah.
no one's ever making me cry again.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
remember the first time I cried again after that, I was like,
You don't want to get your heart broken. You don't want to allow
yeah, but I
somebody that,
cry easy too. So
yeah,
it's kind of hard.
you don't want to
I'm very
let that,
emotional.
yeah, yeah. You don't want
But
to let that person have that control over you, and that's
that's
where,
exactly what it is. It
yeah,
was the having control over my
over your
emotions.
emotions.
And
Mhm.
you don't like that either.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I don't like letting people win my feelings and be able to basically control me like they got me on a joystick and
Hmm.
not, get
Yeah.
me fired up and
But I think showing your emotions isn't necessarily having someone control them. You can show emotion and be emotional without them treating you like a puppet on a
certainly,
stick.
yeah, there is a fine line for sure.
The next one is avoidant or dismissive attachment. These people are emotionally distant, dismissive. They need space. They fear losing their independence. They value that independence over intimacy. So they can feel like emotionally distant or disconnected, feel suffocated by too much closeness, and then really shut down or stonewall during conflict.
Hmm.
Avoid deep conversations about emotions because they don't like to, that would say that we're getting close and they don't want to be close. And often they distrust others or fear of losing the control through giving the trust. So, an example also would be the pulls away when things get too close or intense, start shutting down during conflict.
Yeah.
You know anyone like that?
Are you looking for a brand that supports mental health? Find the Good Brand. With Find the Good Brand, they give back 10% of their profits to Mental Health America, which is a nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting mental health and well being right here in the United States. When you go to findthegoodbrand.com, use code TouchMyHealth and you'll get 10% off your next order.
What is stonewalling? Do you know what stonewalling is?
I
Because I
do.
don't remember.
Yeah. So this is something that I had to do when I was in therapy and something that I learned while I was in couples therapy for through my marriage and then through my own personal therapy is stonewalling is like getting the last word in. It's something that say you're, on the phone having a conflict
Hmm.
and the person says something just to irritate you and then hangs up, or they say something and then slam the door behind them so you don't get a chance to react, you don't get a chance to say something back.
Well, you could run
That's
out the door.
that's stonewalling, and that's typically what happens is the adverse effect is that person is now left with this just ball of emotion because this person just shut the door, just hung up on
Hmm.
them, and it leaves you with that just rage, and you're not allowed to say anything back, or you weren't given the opportunity, another form of
Hmm.
bad communication. But that's really what stonewalling is, and I got a lot of that in my marriage, where we would get into an argument or some sort of discussion, and it was always about winning. She
Hmm.
had to win and get the last word, and notorious for slamming doors, hanging up, stuff like that.
Yeah, and it really leaves the other person feeling because you want to defend yourself or you want to have a rebuttal
Hmm.
and you can't. There's nothing. And yeah, I've dealt with that too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
we all
my
we all do it sometime.
my last two marriages had that. Um, my last one was more in like text, had to have the last word. The
Oh
other
yeah.
one,
Texting, yeah, I could see that, but you get a chance to respond in text message unless
unless
obviously
they
they
block
they
you.
block you. Yeah.
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 Um, it's very I don't want to say the word annoying, even though it is. It's just so juvenile. It is.
Yep.
It's just, it's a,
Hmm.
to me, it's a very juvenile behavior. Like you have no maturity. You're just immature and you have no form of effective communication,
Yep.
no good conflict resolution.
Hmm.
You just
Yeah,
word vomit.
right. And that's the whole they've got to win the conversation.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a competition.
Yeah,
Um, because admitting that you were wrong or that you might have been in the wrong makes you vulnerable.
it does.
Can't have that.
Not for the avoidant types.
No. The last one is disorganized, also called fearful avoidant attachment. So that one is like they want love and intimacy, but there's trauma-driven responses that they have that may have them pull away. So you kind of have that like push-pull dynamic, like I want you, I love you, get away from me. Mixed signals, obviously,
Right.
really, really hard there. Wants connection, but's just terrified of being hurt. So often there is a history, like I said, of trauma or some chaotic upbringing with caregivers. Highly reactive emotionally, fears both intimacy and abandonment, and they may self-sabotage or create emotional drama. And the biggest example, like I said, is the push-pull, where they want you to come close, they want to be close with you, but then as soon as you get close,
They push you
they
away.
get scared and push you
Yeah.
away.
Come here. No.
Yeah. Trying to think of like
Let me
a,
love you. Ew.
yeah.
Right.
Let me love you. No, we're not that close.
Right.
I'm trying
And
to think if I know or I can think of anyone that I have known in that. I don't think I've ever dated anyone like that.
this is
I'm not
where I
sure.
came from. This is
Yeah.
the one. Yeah, this is the one that I was before. I craved it. I craved the love. I craved it, but I was also very fearful of getting hurt, getting my heart broken, actually opening up and allowing to be vulnerable. And I craved it, but I wasn't good at it and I didn't know how. And this is definitely the one that I came from.
Well, when do you think you started to move out of that? Like, when do you think you started to open up to being okay with being loved and trusting and started to like move out of that attachment style?
Honestly,
Yeah.
um, when I was single for a while after I had gotten divorced and through just kind of finding myself and going through therapy and then actually going and getting back on in the dating scene and going through, different uh, experiences with other relationships and almost seeing what worked, what didn't work, how I was able to communicate. And it really pushed me to grow and internalize what are my weaknesses in a relationship? What am I failing? Because all of my relationships can't be somebody else's problem. They can't be,
I was going to say a lot of
they
I
can't
was
be,
just going to say a lot of people don't do that though. There's not a lot of people I feel like that self-reflect and look inward and go, okay, what like you said, it can't always be the other person. Like what do I need to work on? What do I need to do to get better so when the time comes I'm a healthy partner and I'm a healthy person. And it's good that you took that time to yourself to
yeah, it was necessary. It was necessary and I needed to really step back from that serious dating and just, you know, kind of play the field for a little while, do myself and
hmm
figure me out. And that was the best what worked for me because uh I was able to grow and again through therapy and then through a lot of trial and error. I mean, that's what a lot of success comes from is trying things and when you fail and you will is learning why it failed and growing from that. But because of how my marriage ended and the way that it just kind of, went south and it pushed me to grow because I knew that I wasn't a good husband either. And I had done things in my marriage that I wouldn't even think about doing now, and I wouldn't do to
Right.
you or say to you, and have I mean, the amount of fights,
Right.
the
Yeah.
length of fights where we would go days on end without talking, and that's the really why I, like I said, I came from this is because I craved that love, but I didn't have the knowledge to know how to gain it.
Well, and you kind of self-sabotaged and
Oh, 100%.
um you were highly emotionally reactive, very
Very.
hot tempered.
I am a hot-tempered
And
person.
you know,
Was definitely, and it's because we were oil and water. I mean,
mhm.
we had our daughter, and that was really what our relationship was
Yeah.
based around. But the way that I reacted a lot of times was I was instantly mad.
Hmm.
I mean, at anything.
Right. I mean, I wasn't perfect either in either of my marriages or other relationships, and I had to also understand that and look at myself and what kind of attachment style or what kind of personality I have, what works for me, because I was like, I'm landing in the same
Hmm.
situations. So
Yeah.
I no longer want to, like, I don't want to be in here. I don't want to be in these situations. I shouldn't have been in them in the first place. Like these relationships should have never have went as far as they did. And with my first, marriage, obviously my children's father, it was a lot of just, you have kids and
Yeah.
try to.
Work through those things. Yeah.
Right. And I was young and I was immature and I was not, a perfect person either. But,
But
and
continuing to make those same mistakes, you're basically just dating the
right.
same person with a
I was
different
like, I'm
face.
not doing that again.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
I cannot,
Right.
cannot.
Right. And that's
Um,
something that you have to identify within yourself. And that's something that you have to identify within your past
mhm.
relationships and realize what are the traits that all of these people have that are the
Is it
same.
me? Is it you?
Yeah. It's definitely a little bit of both.
Right.
And
But you have to be honest with yourself too.
yeah,
Like you have to
sometimes that sucks.
don't placate yourself. You
Right.
got to be honest with yourself.
Yep.
But would you say though that your secure attachment style, you were pretty rooted in that when, like before we started dating?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would say so. I've been able to learn how to communicate, control my emotions, and figure out the way that I want to be loved and to also show love. You know,
I think you do a good job.
well, thanks, baby. It's
Um,
it's not to say that I'm perfect because I'm certainly not. There's a lot of personal growth that I still need to do, and we're growing together. I mean, mixing it up with our three girls, and I'm the only guy in the house, so it's at times very stressful and trying. So I mean, every day is still a chance for me to learn a bit more about myself and the way that I can communicate and be better for all of us too. It's not to say that I'm perfect at all.
mhm. What are you talking about? Sure you are. So let's talk about like a real life example, a moment
Okay.
where we clashed as far as our attachment styles go,
Right.
which I don't know has happened very often for
No.
us. But there is one that I can think of, and it's more for, I guess I say more on me, but, before we lived together, I it was
Hmm.
very important to
I
me
know where you're
for
going.
you to
Yeah.
text me good morning and text me good night because I viewed that as our way of giving each other a kiss good morning and good night because in my
Hmm.
previous relationships that really wasn't a thing. Like there wasn't that affection. We didn't kiss each other good night barely in the morning so
That's
because
not allowed in our relationship.
right. I don't care if I'm going outside to mow the grass and I come back in, I'm giving you a kiss.
Right.
But that was important to me because of my, I don't know, I don't even want to say anxiousness, but it was just something, and I think it's part of that anxious
Yeah.
attachment style. I was like, I need you to do this, and when you didn't, which was not very often, a handful of times maybe, but I was like, excuse me.
Yeah. That's what I
Did you, you know, and you were like, oh, I fell asleep or this. And I'm like, well, when you get sleepy, just text me.
yeah.
And it's not that I couldn't text you. I would do that too. But in the mornings, a lot of times you would be sleeping because I was the one who woke up early. And so I wouldn't want to wake
Right.
you up. Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
you want me to tell the story?
which story?
So, or my side of the story you just told.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when I had went out with the boys one night, we had went up to the city and went out drinking and having a good time. And like you said, we weren't married yet.
We're not married now.
I mean, not married, not I mean,
We weren't living together.
we weren't living together. Yeah.
It's like, wait, what?
Uh, and so we weren't living together yet, but I had went out with the boys, got home. It was stupid late at night or early in the morning, whichever way. It was like 2 o'clock
Hmm.
in the morning anyway. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, um, you're like, you didn't,
Excuse me, sir.
you didn't tell me you made it home. I said, you have my location.
I was like, I don't care.
I said, you're able to see where I'm at. She goes, well, yeah, but, um, I still want you to send that text message. I want you to let me know that you're home.
Yeah, well, because I'm not also,
And I
I
get
don't
it.
want to
Yeah.
be up at
Right.
whatever time looking at my phone, looking at Life 360. Is he home yet? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like just text me when you get home. And you weren't someone, you have never been someone to stay out super late. So, or even go out really in general. Like that's just never really been our relationship.
Well, we go out together though.
Yeah,
And
but I mean, like, I'm sorry, I meant separately.
oh yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
you going to hang out with your friends and stuff. Um,
Yeah.
and even if you do, like on a Monday night or whatever, you're
Mhm.
coming home even before we lived together by like 9, 10 o'clock at night, you
Yeah.
know, maybe like midnight would be.
Right.
I think there's only like been one or two times, and one of those times where it was past midnight. So it's not,
That was this time.
you
Yeah.
know, yeah. And I get it. You come home and you're like, bed, you know, but I'm like,
It's all
well, I'm
over.
sorry. I don't know. It just, for some reason, it was really important to me. It felt very reassuring. It helped calm my anxiety and my
Oh
nerves
yeah.
a little bit. And like I said, to me, it was just, that is what I felt was the equivalent to like a good morning and a good night kiss.
Mhm.
And those are non-negotiable things in this household.
Right. Yep.
So,
And it was a good way for you to communicate what was needed
mhm.
from me for you. And you came at it, very calmly. You weren't like
Right.
you.
I didn't text you like, what the
Right. And so you came at it calmly and it was, you made it very clear that, hey, this is non-negotiable. When you go out and I'm not with you, I want to know that you make it home. And
Right. Well,
I get it.
even
Yeah.
when you don't go out, like if we're getting
Right.
ready for bed, if
That's
I
it.
was getting ready and I knew I was about to fall asleep, I would text you and be like, "Hey, I'm going to bed.
Yeah.
You know, I love you. Good night." But what do you think, like you've learned, like what have we learned about each other? What's something that you've really learned about me as it relates to the anxious attachment style? And then I'll say something
That
that,
you need constant reassurance. And it isn't because of a lack of it, it's because that it makes you feel wanted and it reassures you that I'm not going anywhere. We're not breaking up. We're not taking any, you know, time apart.
you stuck with me your whole life. You get the ripstone, your cheeseburger body.
Yeah. Yeah. So like she said, I get to Ripstone, but it's not that it's a bad thing. It's that I just compliment you and I do that willingly, but it's that you need that for your own personal sanity.
It's a for right now, and like I've told you this before, it may not be like that forever. It really may not, but needing reassurance is important to me at this point in time
Mhm.
until I am able to at some point maybe, move past that. I mean, I'm always going to want you to tell me you love me. That's just because I'm clingy, stage 5 clinger. But
Yeah.
yeah. And I think what I've learned a lot about you with and not even knowing the secure attachment style that you have, but that is that you do have very strict boundaries and
Yes.
trust is important to you and you are very secure in yourself. Like if I could describe you, I would say very secure with oneself, you know? So,
Well,
which is nice.
I've been through a lot of shit and been told a lot of negative things. So, a lot of the trauma and a lot of that, it really, uh, you can only rely on yourself and you have to build yourself up. And that's what I did.
I agree. I concur. So some things that we, talked about earlier that not talked about earlier, but with the attachment styles that we have discussed and wanting to get past those, like not staying stuck in those attachment styles. Tips to get out of that. Obviously, number one would be
Tips to get out of what?
the attachment styles. But what would your number one tip be?
Oh, go to therapy.
Exactly. That's what
Seek,
I was like,
seek
read
therapy.
my mind.
Yeah, that's
Seek therapy for sure. It's
definitely go talk to we say this every episode, but definitely for your own mental health, go find somebody that you can talk to that is a licensed
therapist.
professional because they're going to give you an unbiased opinion and they are
Mhm.
going to give you tools for your own personal growth.
Tools, homework, things to do.
Yep.
Obviously, being honest while you're there is important. You can't expect to get better or to change and get healthy habits if you're not being 100% honest.
Yep. And put in the work in.
Yes, and
Yep.
it is a little scary at first, and you have to find somebody that you mesh well with. And it may not be the first person you go and sit down with. I was very fortunate that the therapist I had right after my divorce, like I felt very comfortable around him and I didn't feel this sense of judgment and I felt like I could
Yeah.
talk to him, but I know that's not always the case. It's not always the first person you go sit down with that you feel like that. So if you don't, find another one until you
Yes.
get to
Yeah.
till you're the right person.
And you'll know right away. You'll
I
know
think
right
so.
away.
Yeah. And it really helps create a lot of self-awareness. The more self-aware you are, the more you know things about
Hmm.
yourself, you can set those boundaries and you can really put your foot down and not let people cross them. And if they do, stick to the repercussions that you would have for that person. Don't talk yourself out of it and then justify
Right.
why they stepped over that boundary.
No
I
matter
know
who it
that
is.
happened to me a lot.
No matter who it is,
Right.
family, friends, anybody,
Hmm.
that it has to be the same.
Yes.
Um, and being able to set that boundary and then, like you said, sticking to what the repercussion is if they cross it.
Yes. And then choosing partners to help support you and support your growth is really
Big.
important. If you're in a relationship and you feel like there's a lot of, tension and pull and friction between you and your partner, maybe sit down and see if you guys take these quizzes together and talk about it and communicate and have a conversation and learn what it is, the type of attachment style that you and your partner has. And hopefully they're a supportive partner. And if you guys come
Yep.
and talk about it, you can learn from it. If you have someone that's not very supportive, that's going to be pretty tough. I mean, I think anytime you don't have a supportive partner, it just sucks all around.
Yeah, but there's also ways to get them to open up. And again, that's the first step is take this quiz and figure out what your style is and ask them to take it.
Hmm.
And then that creates a conversation. They're
And
probably,
that's a cute little couple activity,
yeah, yeah.
you
They're
know?
probably going to be surprised at what the outcome is. I know I was surprised.
I why?
I don't know. I on it, like I said,
I was not.
I didn't know what attachment styles were. I do know what love languages are, which we'll get into maybe next week or the week after. But
I'm
um,
excited about that one.
yeah, but I definitely knew what those are, but I just hadn't heard of what attachment styles are. And so I'm taking this quiz not knowing what, even what my options were. So
Oh, well, that's true. Yeah, you didn't even know what the like the names or the four
no.
types were. So,
And after taking the quiz and then us doing some research and me doing quite a bit of research to figure out what each one means and what traits come with it, it's eye-opening for sure.
yeah. All right. So, any final thoughts that we want to share before we wrap up?
Yeah, yeah, of course there's always you know options for you to grow personally, uh, go and again seek therapy and try to get better every day. 1% better every day. You'll be on the road to the best version of yourself.
For sure. All right. Well, we're going to link the quiz in the description. I think would be better instead of the comment section, probably. But
Yes.
we'll link it in the description. And then please, whether you take that one or a different one, just comment and let us know what your attachment styles are, or let us know if you have any thoughts on the ones that we talked about or any kind of traits, something that we missed.
Yep.
And share this with someone who needs to hear it.
Yeah, that's a big one. Share this if we were going through this and you're like, "Oh my gosh, avoidance sounds like my
Yeah, I know.
my
Like, oh
friend or
my gosh.
disorganized, the one that I came from. Uh, if that sounds like somebody, the fearful attachment sounds like somebody send it to them. Send this podcast to them and let them listen to it, and
Yeah.
then put it in the comments what you thought.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's all we had. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and then we will catch y'all on the next one.
Okay, see you next time, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay, bye.
Okay, bye.
Thank you for joining us today. If you learned something and our stories resonate with you, subscribe to our podcast. That's a zero-cost way to support our channel. You can also follow us on Spotify, Instagram, and TikTok. They're linked in the description of the episode. We'd love for you to put any questions, comments, or suggestions for future episodes in the comment section on YouTube. We'll read them all. Again, thanks for joining us. We really appreciate your interest. And as always, we remind you to be the best version of yourself. See you next time on the Touch My Health podcast.